Do it.
Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of YOML. I am so excited to come back and do this every night. And today, I think we have one of those special book where we do a multi-part reflections. And we have this book, we have three reflections. So we are on Lessons of Reflection number 170. It's part one of three for its new book. And I'll let Chris introduce the book and we can dish it out.
Yeah, this is a fun one. This is a special place in my heart book. It's called Running with Sherman,
Mm-hmm.
the donkey with the heart of a hero by the author Christopher McDougall. So if you remember Christopher McDougall, he was the one that wrote Born to Run, that we talked
Mm-hmm.
about really early on in this whole entire thing, which is sneakily one of my top 10 favorite books and probably the most highly recommended book that I've given to anybody across anytime anybody asks me to give me a book to recommend, and it's just like, shot in the dark, I'm like, read Born to Run. Like
Right.
it's just like, it's probably my most highly recommended book, my most often recommended book. If somebody's asking me, just like, what's a book that I think you would enjoy, kind of thing. I don't know, there's just something about the way that this guy writes, the way that he wraps up these. It's not like explicit, like chock full of information, like a Michael Pollan book or something like that, or like a Bill Bryson
Mm-hmm.
book where it's just like hitting you with info after info after info. It's always like subtle information and weaved in with an awesome story that just keeps you engaged the entire
Mm-hmm.
time. And you learn along the way, and he'll drop interesting nuggets and things like that along the way, but you don't, like, you know it's not like in your face, like, about learning stuff. It's very subtle, and it's more about the story that he's weaving around it to
Right.
build the
Right.
narrative. And I don't know, he has a really interesting way of writing and building his narrative. And for this particular book, it's about a little donkey named Sherman. The Sherman was dying. Literally, he was like on death's door, and he his like hoofs didn't work. And I guess when a donkey's hoofs don't work anymore, like they can't walk, like they literally, like, they die. Like it's like the next step, like,
Mm-hmm.
if a donkey can't walk, they die. Um, and Sherman was was heading down that road. His hooves were all jacked up. He'd been cramped up inside of somebody's shed or something like that because they didn't know how to take care of a donkey, and he wasn't able to live a donkey purpose. So Christopher
Right.
McDougall, and his family, they live on a farm in Amish country in Pennsylvania. And somehow, somebody let them know about this donkey that was struggling to live at this other person's house or whatever. And they I can't remember the exact chain of events, but like somehow he acquired this donkky, and was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, I'll try to give Sherman a home, or something like that. So he gets there, and he joins their farm, and like, he won't move, he won't do anything, he's just waiting to die, kind of stuff. And so Christopher invites over his friend, who's like a horse doctor, who also knows a lot about donkeys. And she's really worried about him. And she was like, we got to get him walking. If you can get him walking, like, maybe there's a chance we can save him or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
so every single day, he would try to get Sherman to go out in the pasture and walk a little bit, and they would get a little bit further each day. And I forget, there was some like triggering event on one of these days where he couldn't get him to go anywhere at all for the most part, but he would maybe take a few steps each day. But it was like, it just wasn't enough that he knew that it was gonna he was gonna die.
Right.
I can't remember the exact chain of events, but one day, like, Sherman decided, like, something caught his eye, and he trotted a little bit, and he was like, oh shit, he can go, he can do something,
Mm-hmm.
and I long story short, that was when Christopher McDougall got this idea to, because he likes to run, right? So he was like, you know what, try to train Sherman to go run, like, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go with him, and I'll do it with him. So he started to run, and then with Sherman every single day. And then, oh, I remember what the trigger was. There was this other donkey that the donkey lady would come over and bring with. And when that donkey would trot, like, Sherman tried to go trot with it or whatever. And so, like, he was like, oh, maybe this is the key. So maybe he just needs a buddy to go run with or something like that. So he started running with Sherman, and then this other horse started running as well. And then they both decided, hey, like, you know let's go. Let's see what we can do with this. Like, let's train him for a marathon. We're, Christopher McDougall had heard about this marathon in Colorado. It's like a Burro race that's like through Leadville, which is like a really hard. It's really high up, and they do like the Leadville 100 and stuff like that. He had talked about it in Born to Run. And this particular event is like an ultra marathon, basically, with a Burro race. So along the way, as Sherman's slowly starting to get healthier and healthier, and more and more engaged, they decide to team up all together and try to run this Burro race. So eventually, I ended up getting a third donkey involved, and then they had another person that came on board who was their friend named Zeke. He was a troubled child that actually used to be like a straight A student and was like a scholar, and he had went away to college and actually tried to commit suicide in his first year in college. And Zeke was home from college, and because of that, and he was didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. So Sherman actually ended up running with Zeke, and Zeke and him hit it off, and Sherman, the whole summer they trained, and they trained for like a year for this whole entire thing, and they had these 3 donkeys. Christopher got his wife eventually to do this with him as well. So they had him, his wife, and this guy named Zeke, who was their neighbor's son that was troubled, and so they're all training these donkeys to slowly, and surely train for this race. And along the way, Sherman got healthy. Sherman, started to become a donkey again, and he was excited to go out and run in the woods, and and run up and down hills, and he was chasing after friends, and he was happy again. He was healthy. He was becoming the donkey that he once was, and he was went from death's door to he was now a donkey. He was a donkey with a purpose. He gave him a purpose. He was to run every single day again, right? So eventually they ended up going to Colorado, and they did finish the race. And I'm not gonna lie, I got a little teary eyed when Sherman, because Zeke got hurt right before the race on the way to Colorado, and so Zeke was the person that trained with Sherman the entire time, for this race. And I guess the Burro runner relationship is like really like symbiosis, kind of thing. Like they got to be like in a groove to really do this stuff. So they had to have somebody spot fill in for Zeke last minute, and I think it was Christopher McDougall. I think actually ran with Sherman instead. And so anyway, I got really teary eyed a little bit the last bit of this book where Sherman is on the final stretch to going toward the finish line, and he sees Zeke. Zeke was waiting for him at the finish line, and he got like really excited, and he ran at Zeke, and I was like, I almost started crying. Like I was like, oh my god, it was such a good book. Anyway, so it's that's why it's called Running with Sherman, the donkey with the heart of a hero, right? So so ultimately, this particular reflection, I'll share my screen, is about this is why I wrote. You can tell I like this book, right? This is why I wrote a 3-part series on it. Right?
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell?
Of course. I mean, a 3-part is going to be a great book.
Yes, exactly. So I wish I would have allowed myself to write a 3-parter for Born to Run. That was before I broke my own rules. I actually crammed.
I mean, there's no rules that you can't do the part 2 and 3 after.
Well, no, what I actually did for Born to Run, and because I would have done that, but like I actually crammed 3 lessons, the 3 lessons that I wanted to do, into that one reflection, because I was like, oh, I gotta get this one in, right? So I already screwed it up. So
okay.
Anyway, so long story short, this one is movement as medicine, right? So so this particular reflection is it's okay. So as you know, like and as people that have been following along with this journey, so after the day after Amelia passed away, I didn't know what to do, right? So it was all I knew was I needed to keep moving for Amelia, and that was the poem that I wrote her. Like, what would Amelia do? Like, I don't want to do this stuff. Like, what would Amelia do? And I just channeling her, just being, and everything that she taught me, and fighting for life, and never quitting and enduring. Right.
Right.
Like that was the first day. Like after she passed away, I knew I had to keep moving for her. I didn't know anything else. Like I didn't know what was going on in my life, but I just knew I had to channel her energy somehow and do something, anything. So I don't know why. Like I tried to decide on, I'm going to read 30 minutes a day. I'm going to write for 30 minutes a day, and I'm going to try to exercise for 30 minutes a day. And I don't know why I picked those three things. They were just totally random at that point in time. But there were things that we were doing in the NICU. Like they weren't necessarily scripted or anything like that. It wasn't like some requirements. It was just like, things that I used to do when I was around Amelia in the NICU. And I was like, look, I'm going to keep writing to you every single day, and I'm going to keep trying to learn, just keep my mind engaged. And I'm going to go try to move my body a little bit. And I didn't know why. So along the way, as you know, this whole story and this whole journey, through doing that every single day, the compound effect of figuring out through those activities, ultimately I started to figure out, my way through the rubble with Amelia, and figure out like, what are these values that really matter in life, and all this other stuff. That's the whole story of this year, Magical Learning, right? And eventually at a certain point in time, those activities started to compound into a lot of different things. I found myself, writing a book, or I found myself, hundreds of books into this whole entire process. I found myself winning tennis tournaments. I found myself running half marathons, all these other things, because it just slowly started to add up. And for me, none of that really mattered, because it wasn't ever about that. It was always about trying to find a way to stay connected to Amelia and just keep pushing forward, and honoring the promise that I made to her of like, I'm going to keep fighting for, your life. And eventually it led me to meaning and purpose and meaningful relationships and meaningful work and all the other stuff that we talk about, right? Well, one of the things that's always troubled me about those three things that I chose to do on that first day, and have continued to do every single day since then. So when I wrote this one, it was 736 days into the journey after Amelia had passed away. And now we're at, I don't know, like 950 or something like that, or 940 or something along those lines. So that was almost 200 days ago that I wrote this, about running with Sherman. But anyway, the nothing's changed since then. I still do those activities every single day, and when I do it now, that's what I call living for two, and I'm doing that with Amelia. So one of the things I've always struggled with a little bit was the idea of what is the working out has nothing to do with any of my values, right? I'm like the learning, the reading every day, like that's a clearly aligns with my learn something every day value that Amelia and I found along the way. The writing clearly aligns to a lot of the other things that I value every single day. Like those were like crystal clear in my head. Like they were easy to do, and they were super simple. Like running every day, exercising every day, working out every day, whatever it may be. Like that never. Health isn't one of my my values that I care about. Like there's nothing on there. Challenge myself, maybe, is kind of how I've always justified it a little bit. But it's always been a bit of a stretch to figure out like what does that fit into all this stuff. And then I started after I was reading this book, it kind of just hit me like movement is medicine. Christopher McDougall talked about the concept of movement as medicine in the book, and he said, no matter what you've suffered, we're always ready to rebuild once we start to move again, and rest too long after an injury and your system literally powers down and prepares for a peaceful exit. Fight your way back on your feet, and it triggers you to switch to heal. And as I heard that, I was like, that makes sense. Like every single day that I go out and go on a run with Amelia these days, or that I do a workout every single day and I'm living for two with her, like there is just something magical about it that switches me onto, okay, it's time to go fight. It's time to engage. It's time to keep moving and keep pushing forward and heal. And keep doing what I promised to my daughter. Keep on this mission. Keep on this quest. Keep on this journey. Keep exploring. Keep being curious. Keep living your values. Keep living for two. Keep doing your purpose. All these things, right? And I feel like movement may have been like that glue that's holding it all together, really, and pushing me forward through exercise and through just forcing your body to go forward, and symbolically and literally, moving yourself forward every single day, and in an attempt to drive toward that purpose and to live for two, like I've told Amelia I would do. So that's what this book made me think about as I heard like Sherman's story, as I heard, like look at what it did for Sherman. Literally, movement healed his body. He would have died. Like, I mean, like when he slowly started moving, slowly but surely, like, he healed. Donkeys' are purpose is to move. I mean, honestly, like, so we talk about our beavers must dam, right? Like donkeys' purposes are literally like if they have to move, like that is their job. Is to carry shit and to move, So movement really is big medicine, and the reflection is don't stop moving. So yeah, I'd love love to hear your thoughts on how does movement heal you, or help you heal when you're down, or just thoughts in general about it.
Well, I got 3 words for you. Beavers must dam. I mean, I don't.
A donkey must run. You know. Yeah.
Right. We talk about painter must paint, right?
Right.
Writer must write. Beaver must dam. The thing
Right.
is, and we have talked about this in part in previous episode. We're talking about what happened if your foot was in a cast and you left it for a year and never used it. What happened to your foot? It actually is going to wither away and just disappear because that, and same thing with the arm. If you broke your arm and you left it there, it's going to actually become a stick, and it basically it doesn't move anymore. I mean, I have my arm broken before and I have a cast. It's only for 3 months, but when I they took off the cast, my arm was actually fixed at an angle, whatever the angle with the cast was.
Right.
I had to like really use the other hand to kind of stretch it out like slowly, and it's very hard because it stays fixed in that position and it starts to so you can see the difference between the healthy arm and the arm that has didn't move. You're talking about a thin round stick, just bone.
Right.
That's all you see. I mean, it's not like I don't move, it's just the arm doesn't move. Just imagine the whole body doesn't move. And so, and we also talk about the aspect of, you know, how it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Because we're talking about whether we want to say, hey, I want to go on vacation, right? Then I want to go, you know, get home. I want to go on an airplane, hurry up and take off. And then, you know, when the airplane landed, I want to hurry up and get out, right? And then I do hurry up and do. So the thing is for me is that the beaver must dam, because that's how we are made. Monkeys
Gotta do shit.
Monkeys, you know, beavers, human. We are made to move. We have to move because that's our essence. It's because if you don't move, you're not human.
I agree.
Trees don't move, right? But that's the thing is we have the DNA that requires to move. If you don't move, this is what happens when you don't do your beavering on purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not gonna last long, and you don't have a very pleasant life. You take a fish out of water, right? You take a fish out of water. He's not meant to be out of the water, and so he's gonna gasp for air, and he's gonna suffer until you put him back into the water. Sherman is a donkey, especially a four-legged animal like a donkey or a horse, right? And zebra, they have speed for a reason, right? They have good speed because they are made to run. Their DNA is composed of different kind of compound that makes them very, very fast. That's why they're made to run. And you put them into a shed and you let them stand there, it's going to deteriorate. Just like your arms being put in a cast and don't move, and you don't move it at all. So imagine if I broke my arm and the doctor put my bones together and wrap it in a cast. After 3 to 6 months, they take out the cast and my arm is stuck like that, and I don't move it. I don't stretch the arm. Then my arm will stay like that, and eventually it's going to wither away and disappear. So the only way for me to get reuse of my arm is to push it, because that's how we are made. As like I say, beaver must dam. We must express our gene. If you don't express your gene, you're like the donkey. You're like the fish out of water. You are like, you know, the arm that's in a cast, and you say, well, it's you know, frozen, you know, at that angle, and I'm not going to force it to do anything. I'm gonna let it be. I mean, the thing is, that's an example of what happened when you let it be. Like, what happened when you're not beavering on purpose?
You die. I mean,
you wither away.
It destroys your soul.
You cease to exist.
Right.
You have a short life. Not only you have a short life, but you have a miserable experience of that life.
Yeah. I mean,
so to me, that's the thing is, people say, you know, like I said, everybody keeps saying, you know, life is a struggle. You must struggle. Yeah, I agree at some point, but the thing is, that's not the only option. If you find what you are, you can do things better than anyone because you are so addicted to it that you can spend more time than anyone and be better than anyone, but still enjoy the act of that movement, the act of the explorations and discovery of whatever that's you're chasing after.
Agreed.
But people say, you must be like miserable. You must endure pain to have anything worthwhile, right? To me, I don't disagree, but I disagree that on a fact is that's the only way. I know, and
Pain doesn't have to be miserable though. Like you can endure pain. Like I'm in pain every day when I go. I ran on a 4 mile run out in the cold today. Like because I do this stuff. I try to do it in the wintertime as much as I can outside.
Well, pain is
when
subjective because
right. I mean, it was
because the
painful.
thing is, if you go to the point where let's say you go and you do, let's say you haven't exercised for months and then you start running 5 mile, you come home, your body is sore, but then somebody start putting ice pack or start massaging the leg, whatever, that's pain, but it
Yeah.
feels
Oh, yeah.
damn good.
Well,
Right?
actually, there was a book to come in the future,
Uh-huh.
Dopamine Nation, where you can get the dopamine feel from doing more of stuff or the other end of the spectrum of experiencing some shit, right? Like eat the frog kind of stuff, right? Like you know what I mean? Like you can get a dopamine lift by enduring pain and then everything else is up from there, right? Like and that's like
It's a contrast, experience
right,
of contrast, right?
right.
And you have to take the blue pill and the red pill together and to experience a contrast. And contrast is what we want. We are a creature of motion. And we're not the only one. I mean, monkeys, eagles,
All
beavers, right?
actually
We
I
are,
think everything in this world is in motion. Honestly, I don't know that
well,
like
not all
even
the
plants.
species. You're talking about a plant doesn't move.
No, I mean they move up, like trees
They
grow
do, they
like I
do.
mean like fungi expands out, I mean like everything kind of is moving. Like I don't think there's anything that's just static in this world.
Well,
Like
no, but for animals specifically, the expressions of the motion it's so strong that if you don't move, you won't survive, and you
it
will have a miserable. But that's why they put you in jail, right? If you do something
right,
bad, they put you into this 6x6 box
right.
and say, "Hey, I'm restricting your movement."
They'll
But the
kill
thing
you.
is, we're talking about like how the punishment for prisoners is, loneliness is one of the biggest thing, right? And the second big thing is you limit the emotion. You put somebody in a box, six by
Right.
six, and you restricted it. You can only stay in this box for most of the time, and you can only go to the courtyard, which is limited in by these fence, right? That's why people don't want to go to jail and they stay in prison, right? They'd rather go outside and be free because we are creatures of motion. We must express that. If not, then you have a negative experience of life.
Right. I agree. I mean, I was it makes me think of two things. A book that we haven't read yet, two books we haven't talked about yet is Anti-Fragile. Nassim Taleb's
Mm-hmm,
Anti-Fragile. And
mm-hmm.
if you don't use it, you lose it. I mean, he talks about it in that book. Like that's the point of everything that we have. Like if you don't use your brain, you lose it. If you don't use your body, you lose it. If you don't use anything, if you don't use the things that we were given in this world, like you said, if a beaver doesn't dam, like they'll probably just die. I mean, like it's it literally is, if you don't use
Because
it,
that
you lose it.
it goes against its being, its existence, right? So we have an existence, right? The cells and the organs has a job, has an existence. Its job is to do certain thing. So if you don't let it do its job, it's gonna die.
Right.
That means that whatever faculty you have, right, it's no longer existing. It disappeared. Therefore, you lose it because you are a composition of multiple things together, like an ecosystem, a biodome in your gut. You have your and um your nervous system. You have your you know you know the blood system, the intestines, the brain, the heart, whatever. You have a bunch of these systems together. You are compositions of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever faculty you have, it's there and it's working. And the moment you stop it from doing its job, right? It died. That means that that faculty has been removed from you, so that you don't no longer have that weapon or that tool that was there from the beginning. So same thing for you is those systems make up who you are, and that who you are must also express what you are, because you are a beaver. You have to stand. You are an eagle. You must fly. If you don't fly, the eagle is not going to live that long, and it's going to have a miserable life, miserable existence,
Right.
because you are suppressing its expressions of its gene.
Right.
You're suppressing your expression of yourself.
Like if you kind of think about it in one way, like building a dam, if you are a beaver, if we're going to go with that analogy, or a donkey and you're running through the forest all the time, and you're running tens of 20s of 30s of miles a day or something like those lines, like going back to the idea of pain, like that's painful for a lot of people. Like that's painful. Like, I mean, if you told me to go,
if you ask a fish to run like that, it's painful. But you ask a donkey to do that, that's like going running downhill.
But right, it is running downhill, but it's still painful. Even running downhill is still painful, even for human beings. It's easier than running uphill.
I'm just giving you the imagery of asking a fish to run through the forest of 30 miles a day, 30 miles a day, or or asking a donkey to run, or asking a cheetah to run 30 miles a day. Well, the thing is, it's relative. Pain is relative, because you're looking at the fish, right? It's impossible for him. It's like it's going to take his whole being just to move a few inches.
Right.
Or you ask somebody like a hippo to climb a tree, right? To climb a tree and sit on a tree all day. You look at a hippo versus a monkey, right? It's relative. It's pain, because the word pain is not an accurate description of what we're trying, because it's just a label we made up, right?
Sure. I mean, I know. Let's always be impeccable with your word. I agree, but like, let's for this, because we don't have another word to use right now. We're going to call pain as something that not as something that's uncomfortable, not as something that is debilitating, but something that is uncomfortable. Like, let's call that the pain definition that we're going with, right? It is probably not comfortable for anybody to run downhill. I mean, but it's less comfortable. It's less uncomfortable.
But that's why I say it's relative, because you're going uphill versus downhill. You're still exerting energy going downhill. It's just you have more strides and more
more fun.
Distances in your effort, right? Your effort has been multiplied and leveraged.
Right.
Going uphill, it's going against you.
What I'm getting at is purpose is still painful, but it's like an enjoyable pain, right? Like, I mean, that's the.
But that's what I'm saying is, that word is just misused all the time. So the connotations of pain is something I don't want. But the thing is, if you say to the point where pain is something that could be positive or negative, this is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about with movement as medicine.
The imagery in most people's head is pain is something that's negative.
Pain doesn't have
pain and sorrow, right?
Pain can also be purpose, like in a weird way. Like pain can literally be, you're doing your purpose and it's painful, but it's also a good painful. It reminds me so much of that Dopamine Nation book, where she talked about. I just pulled up some quick notes really fast on that one, because I couldn't remember exactly what she said, but she was talking about like pain and pleasure in general. If you seek one, you're actually going to get the other. So if you go the pleasure route all day, every day,
red pill, blue pill, you cannot have one by itself. It has no meaning.
So I agree. So if you looked at like the idea of embracing pain as a way to ultimately get you more toward a pleasurable existence, like that is a philosophy that you could take. I'm not saying the pain in the bad way. Like, I'm not saying atomic bomb pains, but like stimulated pain of running 5 miles in the cold or something like that. Like I can endure that. Like, it hurts. It's not fun, but I feel better afterwards, because I get back into the house and I'm like, yes, all right, Amelia, we did it. Great run today. Like, I'm ready to go tackle on other stuff. Right. Like, I mean, it's not
I think there's an art to doing this, because it's not a clear cut black and white whether you do this and do that, right? Because there's certain things that, like, pain is good and sometimes pain is bad. Because if I give you like small dose of poison every day, right? Sometimes those poison can make you stronger, sometimes make you weaker, and you die.
That's
I
true.
mean, I mean, a lot of people get killed that way. Over a long years, it gets a small amount of mercury or whatever
Right.
poison that is, and eventually it amounts to a significant amount, and then your body just shuts down, right? So to
Right.
me, it's not black and white. It's not, always this or
I
that
agree.
and other. There's an art to it, right?
Mhm.
And certain things apply and certain things doesn't apply. Because if I keep beating you, let's say I keep beating you with my fist or some hard object every single day, eventually your brain's gonna hurt and you're gonna have concussions and you will
Right.
have a headache and you might die from that cause. Or you can work out and you know, you break down the muscle and the muscle builds back up again, right? And
Right.
so in that case, it's completely two different things, right? One is good, one is bad. But how do you know which one is good, which is bad? So that's never ever a clear cut to say, hey, no pain, no gain.
Right.
It's never like that. So you have to make sure that when you go into something,
The
you
pain's
have
got
to
to leave it.
understand. You
Just
have to
sorry, go ahead.
understand that it's always pros and cons, and it's
Right.
never this and that. And so don't take any concept with the absolute. There's no absolute.
Agreed. I think the pain that you choose to embrace should be the pain that aligns to your purpose. Like that
Because the thing
will
is, the thing
always
is
be worth it.
when you have something that is your purpose, right? Um, if whatever you do aligns with your purpose, whatever pain it comes at you, you can endure it. What was the
Yes.
saying that Viktor Frankl say? A man
He
with
has
a
a why,
why.
can overcome anyhow. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I
Right.
mean. That's the thing is when it aligns with whatever you're doing aligns with your purpose, you have the strength to endure it. Because you can see people say, well, this guy is nuts. This guy is superhuman. This guy is stupid or whatever you want to say. Whatever he does, he's able to do it because it aligns with his purpose. Therefore, he can endure it. He can do that and
All day, every day.
all day and every day.
Right. Like a beaver never gets tired of damming, right? That's why we keep saying a beaver must dam. And like
beaver
it's
must
probably
dam.
painful, like, but it's a good pain that aligns to their purpose. So therefore, like it feeds their soul, versus and it gives them fulfillment.
Because you look back at Viktor Frankl, right? Because he has a reason. He can endure the prison scenario. Other people don't have a purpose. They tend to they say, well, I give up. I start smoking my last cigarettes, and a lot of people does that in prison in World War II. Like they just say, hey, I have no reason to live, so
I quit. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they die. They die. But a man with a why who can do it anyhow.
Exactly.
And so that's the thing is the purpose of who you are and you're able to express it. It allows you to have the strength to endure any pain that comes at you.
Agreed. Purpose is motion. Like purpose is motion though. Like so going back to like the movement is medicine.
Well,
Like
purpose is whatever you're supposed to manifest. It could be motion because you has a motion gene that needs to express it. If your purpose is to be swimming, right? Then you be swimming. Your purpose is to climb, you be climbing. Your purpose is to fly, you fly.
But purpose is an action. Like it has to be. Like it has to be an action. Like
Well,
I mean,
purpose
you can't.
is your calling. Purpose is your ability to manifest. It's just like a magnet, right? A magnet, it is what it is. It has its characteristic, right? A magnet is going to attract something or repel something because of its characteristic. It is manifesting what it is. It is manifesting what it is. So you and I are exactly like an object. You have certain DNA and molecules in you. It makes up who you are, who I am. And because of who I am, my characteristic, I have to manifest, have to express the gene that I have. If you are a talker, right, you have the gene to talk. Right. You need to talk, otherwise your day is boring. And
use it, you lose it.
Your day is boring if you don't talk. Right. And vice versa. If you have somebody who is a hermit and he's an introvert, right, and he doesn't want to think and talk to people, you ask him to talk, it's like pulling teeth.
Right. Well, I mean, it like what you just said was pretty had a really interesting corollary in my head of like the idea that like, look, purpose is fragile. I mean, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like, I mean, like I could easily tomorrow wake up and decide, you know what, Amelia, not today. We're not gonna read, we're not gonna write, we're not gonna exercise or whatever. And I could do that the next day. And I could do that the next day. And I do that for a month down the road or whatever. The purpose goes away. Like, you know, I mean, it's like it's no different than anything else. Like, I mean, it has to be in action and in motion for it to be activated, for it to be a part of your life.
If you don't do it, you're suppressing its expression. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I mean, because the book Anti-Fragile, I think that's a little more advanced
It is.
concept to understand. So we have to kind of ease somebody into the Beaver Must Damn first.
We'll get to
but you tell them that, hey, you know, purpose is fragile. I say, okay.
Right.
I have no idea what you're saying, but sounds cool. It's expressing your purpose is anti-fragile.
It is. No, it really is.
But that's the thing is, no one knows between like beyond me and you. No one knows what we're talking about.
Well, that's okay. Like this is our show. This isn't other people's. So they can go read that shit if they want to, or they can jump ahead and figure out what Anti-Fragile is because it's another book down the road that we'll talk about. But no, you're right. Like we should probably jump ahead and things. But
that's why I stick with the Beaver Must Damn until they say, you know, can you stop talking about the beaver? Then I move up to the next level. Okay, can you understand this one now?
Right. Well, a donkey must run. Now that we've heard running with Sherman, you know,
you're talking about donkey must run. I say Beaver Must Damn, donkey must run. The other run downhill, right?
Right.
That's the transition we're trying to move up to the point where we say, okay, now imagine taking all that concept and move up to say, hey, now you're a human, right? You have all these options, and you need to combine this into this inserto, as Nicholas Taleb will put it, inserto, what it is that you must express. You need to express yourself. Find out who you truly are and express yourself. And if you do that, right, that's beavering on purpose.
Man, can you imagine the omen of the universe if Sherman was a beaver and this poor beaver was dying because he couldn't dam, you know, and Christopher McDougall decided to go to a dam making competition or something like that and like, you know, and bring other beavers along and, you know, and made it this big thing. Can you imagine the universe omens of that one? It would have been like, oh, Jesus Christ. Yes. Like, you know, of course Sherman's a beaver, you know, and
gotta be beaver.
Taking him to the big dam building competition, you know, in Leadville, Colorado, you know.
Yeah, and he found his purpose, and he's damming on purpose. Like.
Right. But honestly,
it sounds a bit cheesy, though.
It does, but now
the point is to transition from a simple concept to what we can apply and say, hey, you know, I'm not a beaver, right? Yes, I understand a beaver must dam, but I'm not a beaver, so what do I do? So we got to transition now from a beaver to a donkey to a cheetah or whatever, that more advanced up to the point where, okay, you know, we get to the point where we're close to the human, and the humans say, okay, we have all these faculties and all these options. How do we move forward with these? You know, versus, hey, you know, I'm just this simple animal that can only make dams, and I'm just a simple rodent.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the more that I think about it, the more that I think that if whatever your purpose is has to be able to be done every single day. Like you can't have a purpose that's like a long-term purpose. It's like, look, I'm here.
That's not a purpose. I mean,
that's a dream. That's a vision.
I mean, you cannot stop being who you are. If you are not being who you are suppressing your expression.
Exactly.
If you are suppressing your expressions, it's a miserable existence, and you have a short life because you will die.
If you don't bring, have we gone through this one yet? If you don't bring forth what's inside of you, what's inside of you will kill you. But if you do bring it forth, it'll save you, right? You know. So I mean, it's got to be every day.
And that's an advanced concept as well. You know, people don't just get that right away, but eventually, when we stack up these concepts, it will make sense later on.
Right. Well, it makes sense. I mean, You know, this is our journey.
Yeah, but
like,
you and I had 2.5 years of training every single day for.
That's true. Yeah. But no, but like this is really important for me, like, you know, because like I'm no longer in the rubble back in the day. Like I've told you this, like I don't feel the same way that I felt, you know, the weeks, months, you know, even a year after Amelia had passed away anymore. And I don't mean that to like mean that I forgot about my daughter or something like that. Like it's a part of my elephant at this point in time. Like what I'm doing every single day is a part, my purpose, and living that purpose is a part of my elephant. It's almost subconscious now. But these conversations help to bring that back up to my writer to remember, like,
Right.
Like sometimes I don't want to go on a run, to be honest with you. I mean, like, you know, there's days, especially when it's the winter time and like, you know, and it's cold out, and I'm like, look, get your ass out the door. Like, what would Amelia do? Like, you know, remember the why. Like, you know, like I'm pulling out every trick that I can possibly think of to get my ass in fucking gear and get out there and go, right? But like, you know, at the end of the day, like
it's because it's because, you know, in life is not something that you exist by yourself. There's going to be things around you that is going to distract you. It's going to be your you know,
your
the
urgent
distraction
and important, you know, activities.
Well, the thing is,
quad one.
we just talked about this before we start recording. Is we're talking about the things that, you know, we're being told by society that this is the right things, and we've been brainwashed to doing things that for no reason that you can understand or can think of. You know, talking about daycare, talking about like holidays and why holiday exists and whatnot, right? It has nothing to do with you. It just, I mean, people just made up of a certain holiday so they can sell stuff to you, and retailers or you know, some kind of a union or whatever, you know, associations they're in, right? They say, hey, you know, buy corn or buy you know, buy wheat or buy whatever, because they sell them. So they make up things so they're going to distract you from your purpose. And so it's hard. It's hard to do your purpose by yourself, because sometimes you don't have anyone to kind of like, hey, you know, look, that's a distraction. You it's not part of your purpose, so you have to come back. So that's why we talked about was yesterday, right? About the Alaskan bush.
Yeah.
so
I kept saying African. Yeah.
Alaskan. Yeah. Well, the thing is that's what I'm saying is there's always these external stimuli that's going to mess up your journey in doing your purpose in being who you are and expressing yourself, because you're gonna get like interference, right? People's gonna come in and interference with, you know, hey, you know, I'm drinking this, I'm eating that, I don't run, I don't do that, I do blah blah blah, right? You get sucked into this vortex of different narratives that, because you don't live by yourself. There's things around you. You know, you're talking about, like I say, let's maybe take an example of the beaver. You have a beaver that comes and build a dam. Somebody comes in and just knocks the dams out. So you get interfered by other things. But that's the thing is, the beaver can, you know, continue to flow down the stream, or it can rebuild the dam, right? And so if you, it's not going to be a point where you have no distractions. It's always going to be distractions. The art is to figure out what you need to do to get back to being who you are on purpose. Express yourself in a way that you need to express yourself.
Agreed. And I think I had another epiphany while we've been having this conversation as well. Like, I actually don't know that you can live your purpose by yourself. I know we always talk about meaningful relationships, but I've always thought, like, you know, without Amelia, without you, without other people in my life, you know, to do this stuff, I don't know that this purpose would endure. Like, I mean, I always have somebody to, because I was about ready to say, like, well, I run alone a lot, you know, and you know, because you were saying, like, I think you'd said something about sometimes it sucks doing these things alone and you know, whatever. But like, the truth is I'm never alone, because I'm always with Amelia when I'm doing these things, you know, and I know that, and it's in my subconscious. And when I'm doing this stuff with you, I'm always.
That's why you've been able to do for the past 2.5 years. Imagine you wouldn't have somebody to have in your mind, to have a conversation with, you won't be able to endure. You won't be able to remember
Yeah.
that. You can distract it and say, hey, squirrel, like
Right.
like
Yeah.
does
Yeah. Yeah.
in the
Right.
movie
Right.
Up, and you completely forgot what you're supposed to do,
Yeah.
and then you let astray to whatever end, and then suddenly you wake up in the in the middle of the night and you're like 70 or 80 or 90 years old and say, shit, I forgot I need to go back to do
Right.
whatever. But then it's like 20, 30 years, 40 years too late.
Agreed. So two epiphanies in this one. Purpose has to be an action, and it can be done every single day. And purpose has to be done with somebody else in that action every single day as well. Like, I mean, I know we call that meaningful work and we call that meaningful relationships. But I think
But
I
that's
think
the
you have to have them. Like,
technical concept. But
right.
the 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 concept that people understand a little bit better is to kind of elevate it to a point where it's a meaningful work, meaningful relationship.
Right.
So I mean, the thing is, I like the meaningful relationship part of it. I don't really like I'm not happy totally with the word work.
Work. Yeah. Right.
So it's
Meaningful action.
meaningful purpose or purposeful
Yeah.
expressions and meaningful relationship maybe, but it's just that the word has been misused so much that every time you utter it,
Yeah.
people conjure this negative image. It's just like I asked you, hey, what's your dream job,
Well, I mean,
right?
job is. I mean,
I say
jobs.
when people say, well, it's a job. I don't want a job.
Right. Yeah. No, I was gonna say. Yeah, I
I
was gonna
don't
say
want
it's
I don't dream about job. I dream about not having a job.
right. I
Does
dream
that
about,
count?
I don't know, owning a tennis club, like I don't know, but that has nothing to do with being a job. I mean,
It's
like
not a job, right?
I
It's
just want to
not
play tennis all
so
day,
job
Yeah.
associate with work, right? And these things has a negative associations. That's what I'm saying is I'm not happy with the word
I agree.
work.
Oh, hey, always
It,
being, that's how we're redefining the words. Like we can make whatever words we want to make up, to equal clubbing. But I think at the end of the day, like purpose, to live a purpose driven life, you have to have meaningful action and meaningful
mhm,
relationships to do those meaningful actions with every day. Like it's
yes.
like the multiplier has to be every day. It cannot be once in a while. Well, I guess it can be, but like, if you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing. Like
But
if
the
you're
thing is, for me, it's not necessary to do the everyday thing because if you don't do it, if you tell me to stop breathing, I mean, this is what I'm going back again. It's some simple, right? You tell me to stop breathing for like a day, right? It's not possible. I want to
right,
breathe all the time.
right,
I'm a fish. I want to swim all the time. To me, if it is your purpose, then it's a given that you
right.
do it like all the time. If you
Yeah,
don't do it all the time, it's not real. It's not a purpose. I
I
mean,
agree.
it's whatever, it's fascinations or whatever it is you want to call it, but it's not purpose. Just stop eating for 30 days.
Right.
Stop breathing for 2 days. What happens when you stop breathing for 2 days?
I assume I
You
mean,
lose. You don't use it, you lose it, right?
right, right. I assume you lose
I
the ability
have
to breathe.
never.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
people can hold their breath for like 10 minutes, 15, even 30 minutes, but never have I ever come across somebody that can stop breathing for 2, 3 days.
Right. Without
And so you cannot.
without help, like external help, Yeah. I mean, because
But you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's the expression of yourself. So it's like a magnet. Say, hey, stop being a magnet. Stop attract. The the
the other
metal,
the
right?
opposite. Right.
I mean, either you push or you trap and do nothing, right? Because the moment that you have a magnet, that's nothing. What happens to the magnet?
I don't
It's
know.
no
I guess
longer a magnet. It's
I
just a
know.
piece of metal,
It's just, yeah, it just loses it's just, yeah, you're right. It's just,
right?
it's pointless.
So if I'm a person and you tell me to stop breathing, right? I stop being a person. I'm being a dead person,
I I agree.
right? I stop being a living person. I stop being a dead body.
Agreed.
This is as simple as I can put it.
It's movement is medicine. You got to keep moving if you want to live a purpose-driven life. You got to move, and it's got to be every day.
You gotta do you. You got to be who you
Yeah.
are. Express what you're supposed to express. If you don't, I mean, you're not gonna be who you are. Just like I say, because I'm a human or an animal, I needed oxygen for me to live. Therefore, I always gonna be breathing. I'm not gonna ever say, you know, I'm tired of breathing. I'm gonna stop breathing for a while. I'm take a break. Think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it. If your heart's ahead, I'm take a break. I have pumps billions of times already. I'm gonna stop.
It's funny though, because you're hitting on the idea of the I don't know the word for this, but the symbiotic relationship of everything living their purpose in tandem, right? Like if one of those things breaks down, you're all fucked. If your lungs' job is to breathe. If it stops, you're fucked. If the heart stops pumping,
you're fucked.
That's its purpose, you're fucked. If your brain stops, you're I mean, all these things, it'll shut down other things, and it's like a chain reaction of, and that is if you don't use it, you lose it. Like if you don't,
you tell the heart to stop doing its purpose for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right. You might not come back.
Agree. I mean, that's
because the whole ecosystem is wrecked. It's
exactly. So the same goes for you not living your purpose. Like slowly but surely, you wreck the ecosystem.
You're gonna wreck the ecosystem of what depends on you.
And the littlest thing can wreck an ecosystem. I mean, it could be every day when you run through
compound effect
or something like that. Yeah, right. Exactly. Like it's I mean, yeah. So I think. Well, anyway, all right. Let's put a pin on this because I know we have a lot. Because we have two other purpose conversations to talk about with Running for Sherman, because that's what the book's about. So, so I know we've been on a purpose train for the past couple weeks.
I think there's a theme going on here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what this journey is about: is purpose, values, and overcoming pain and loss. I guess at the end of the day. So,
well, I think this is something we have discovered. It's not something we say, hey, we're going to build company.
Oh no,
because we wanna find, we wanna like do a purpose. Like, I have no idea my purpose. This year I start to ask myself and make a self-assessment. It's who I am and what makes me happy, and how do I feel if I do this? What's my experience like when I do this, that, and the other? And so we found, we discovered that purpose is essential to all these things that we all do.
Correct. Like it's been the journey that's led us to these conversations, but you're seeing how the journey starts to unfold. Like we're on reflection 170 or whatever.
170. And only halfway.
and we're only halfway there. Like, I mean, we got a lot more conversations about values and purpose to come, but it never gets old because it's always a different twist on it. Like, the yesterday, this day is about movement as medicine that led into Beaver Must Damn. Like, I feel like I bet if you went and like looked back, if we used like a tool like Gong or something like that and analyzed our calls, like, and did like some AI, whatever functionality.
Purpose is a huge thing in the middle.
Purpose would be huge. A Beaver Must Dam would be right next to that, and then you'd have like values, like but I feel like a Beaver Must Dam, if we hit that little trigger button, like and it pointed out every single time, I swear to you, that's probably the number one topic beyond like purpose or whatever. Like the it's really funny how this is like all taking shape. But anyway. More beaver talk to come tomorrow. Everyone, stay tuned. I'm sure we'll talk about donkeys as well. Given this is Sherman, so and maybe we'll talk more about donkeys in the long run, because now we can add in the donkey must run into the so this is the first donkey mention, everyone. So keep tuned. All right. Well, any final thoughts for the day on movement as medicine?
I mean, it is your genes that express. So it's something that you must do. You cannot suppress it. If you do, then like they say, stop breathing for a little bit and see what happens. I mean, it's a miserable last 5 minutes. If you ask me to stop breathing for 5 minutes, it's gonna be totally like completely painful for me to. It's like the threshold of pain for me to stop breathing, stop being myself 5 minutes. And then I become a dead body. But movement is something that we have as a gene, and it's something that we have to do.
Don't stop moving. That's my statement. Like, is like more than ever. Good. Keep it going. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Okay. Good night.